All right, friends, we're back with another Monday preview. This week we have Griff from Caniac Sessions breaking down the Carolina Hurricanes for us. Thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Been looking forward to this. I always love to get on with podcasts and shows of other teams and talk hockey. It's my favorite thing to do. So
Absolutely. I believe you were our first person that said yes to
ah,
doing this when Krusty started thinking about it. And I love that even more because, of course, I'm a Blackhawk fan first, but I do have a very, very big soft spot for the Carolina Hurricanes. And so I was like, this is perfect. Now I have my
awesome,
favorite two teams. This is
awesome.
great. So, getting into Carolina Hurricanes, for those who are new or for those that are Blackhawk fans and really not familiar with most of East Coast teams, or like I joke, if you the only thing that you know about the Carolina Hurricanes are videos of Svechnikov and Seth Jarvis, what are the biggest pieces for the Hurricanes that you would say?
So yeah, I think we've got a pretty solid core that have been together for several years. Really since all the way back to like 2018 when
Hmm.
this core kind of started taking shape. Some additions and some subtractions, here and there, but it all starts around Sebastian Aho. He's our top line center. He's our best player year in, year out. Um, we brought in a guy like Seth Jarvis, like you mentioned, and he's off to a great start in his, fourth year in the league. Um, and then, we're always, Carolina's kind of identity is, shot suppression and goal prevention. And so we've always been a defensive, had like a defensive identity,
Hmm.
really strong on the blue line. Folks like Jacob Slavin and Jalen Chatfield, who's kind of an underrated shutdown defenseman. I think he's kind of come onto the scene here as of late, the last couple of years. But very fast, very a physical defender, good shutdown defender. And then we sprinkle in some Brent Burns there and some Shane Gossesbear, who kind of try
Does his
to
thing.
say that again.
Does his thing.
Yeah. Yeah, so I think the identity of the Canes is just offensively anyway is try to get you know drive offense from the blue line, shot from the point, shot from the blue line, try to get some net front, and score off the rebounds and the deflections, and that's kind of our identity. So, um, this season has been it started off great, but kind of we've been a 500 team since probably the end of November, so a little bit of struggles here that we're working through, but another solid season. So
For the struggles for this year, do you feel like it's more just guys that are out on injured reserve, or is it some sort of mentality roadblock that's going on with them right now?
yeah, it's kind of hard to say. We were just actually debating this on our show, but um, injuries, I think, kind of, well, and mainly to our goaltender. So Frederick Anderson played 5 games this year. He was 4-1 when he went out, and had to go have some, I guess that what they call it, his knee being cleaned out, whatever that means. Um, but he's on the ice now and practicing again. But I feel like Freddie went out, and the team was something like 16-5, and it was rolling right along, and then started going through a little bit of adversity. Had to call up our minor league goaltender to back up Pyotr Kochetkov, who was our number two. And then right after, or excuse me, right before Thanksgiving, Kochetkov goes out with a concussion. Then basically we've got both of our minor league goaltenders in Raleigh. Um, One guy that probably shouldn't even be out of the ECHL. And so I feel like at that point, the team started playing like they were trying to compensate for the soft goals that were finding their way in the back of the net, if that makes
Mhm.
sense.
Yeah.
And, offense dried up. We stopped scoring, whereas we were, leading, at least in the top 5 in the league through the first 20 games of the season in scoring. Next thing you know, it dried up, and now, curing cancer is easier than scoring a goal for this team. And it's kind of that's been the trend lately. And And I feel like we were just talking about this as well last night against the Sabres in Buffalo. Just totally got embarrassed. And, I feel like this is kind of rock bottom. So it's a little bit of everything. I think a little bit of injuries. Jarvis was out for a while, Gossesbear out for a while, and of course Freddie. But then just fighting through, whatever it is, the mentality that they have, and just being consistent. It's just not there. So maybe a longer answer than you wanted, but that's that.
Speaking of goaltending, I know they've been kind of Ronta was there for a while.
Mm-hmm.
Anderson's there for a while. They were battling injuries consistently. And then during the offseason, Ronta announced that he was going back overseas. What was your were you sad to see him go, or kind of it's about time? Kuchekov needs more time up here in the NHL?
Yeah. Ronta was great. He was definitely a fan favorite. We loved him here. I think, I don't know if you remember last season, imagine Freddie went out with an injury last year too. Well, no, I'm sorry. It wasn't an injury. It was actually a blood clotting issue. So I take that back. It wasn't an injury. Anyway, he was dealing with blood clots. And so he went out for, I think it was like 4 months before he was cleared to play. And then Ronta was, the guy, and he just didn't work out. He was having a rough time too. And he ended up getting waived and did a stint in the minors. And then Kochetkov kind of carried the team for the better part of 4 months. Mm-hmm. We claimed Spencer Martin off waivers from the Blue Jackets, brought him in as a backup there for a long time until Freddie made his way back. So yeah, Ronta's contract expired at the end of last season, and we didn't renew it, re-sign him, and then he couldn't find a home, in the off season. So he ended up, I believe he's playing in Finland now. So
I was hoping that he was going to be in our broadcast booth and
oh yeah, that'd be awesome.
Is one funny dude.
He is. I love that guy. I really do. He gave us a lot of good play here. I mean, he carried us through the playoffs, in 2021, 22. Anyway, that series against Boston in the first round, went to game 7. I think he started almost every game that series and won it for us, basically. So, yeah, it's love Ronta.
Yeah, we love Ronta. Getting into, time traveling a little bit back to kind of the playoffs last year, there was the rumors and rumblings of your guys' head coach, Rod Brind'Amour, having maybe some contract issues. Maybe he wasn't going to be the head coach for the Carolina Hurricanes moving forward. What were your thoughts and feelings on that? Are you happy to see him continue?
Yeah, absolutely. He is, I think a lot of that got out into the media, but us as fans and a lot of the local media and some of the the reporters on the Canes beat, we didn't believe that for a second. So, Rod Brind'Amour is, he is a Carolina Hurricane personified, like literally. He was, he was the captain in 2006 when we won the cup. He's the culture. I mean, if you think of the culture of the Carolina Hurricanes,
it's him.
It's Rod Brind'Amour. And he's here, he's in the community. His wife is from Raleigh. He met her here. His kids are, his youngest son is plays for the junior Canes. And I mean, he's just very intertwined in the community. And I really don't believe that if he wouldn't have been offered this contract extension, I think it's either coach the Canes or coach nobody. And, I really believe that if we would have won if Carolina would have won the Stanley Cup last year, for instance, I think he rides off into the sunset. I don't, he's been on record saying that, he's not going to do this forever. So, but, we love him here. He's a great coach. I couldn't imagine Rod Brind'Amour not being the head coach while Jordan Staal is still the captain. To me, they're like peanut butter and jelly. They come in a package deal. I don't think one can exist without the other. So, yeah, glad that got resolved. I think a lot of that drama was just based upon the price that was, offered initially to extend him. So yeah, totally glad that he's here. Don't want to see him leave anytime soon.
Nice. Yeah, it very much it threw me being a Western Conference fan. I was like, wait, but Rod's like in my mind, Rod is going to be there for forever. Like he's
Yeah.
just Kane. He's not gonna go coach for like the Rangers or something
Yeah.
crazy. He's not leaving. Um Good. Well, I'm glad that wasn't a thing in sort of local media. I think mainly what we saw was just one, you mentioned the dollar amount, and two, there was the like murmuring of, well, the Canes are always in the postseason, but it's always the postseason to a point.
Yeah.
The talent's there. At what point do you think that it's like a coaching thing that they can't get past it? I'm like, I don't think that it's Rod. I don't see anyone commanding that room better than he can, or at
There's
least that's what it seems like from an outsider.
Yeah, and I mean, there's some rumblings, amongst the fan base that, especially last season when, they go out and they get Gensel and, really go all in to try to get over this hump, and they don't. So there's people out there that do blame the coaching and the system, and there's a lot of blame out there that Rod's defensive first system doesn't allow for offensive individuality, mainly amongst some of the players. There's some people that feel like players like Martin Necas and Andrei Svechnikov are kind of capped a little bit and not allowed to be creative offensively and drive more offense, right? So because they're always, covering for a defender who's pinching up the boards. So,
Right.
there's some of that out there. It's not the common consensus, but it definitely exists. But to be honest, if you're in the show every single year, and you have a chance, that's all you can ask for, in my opinion.
No, definitely. Definitely. Looking forward a little bit, we've got the trade deadline coming up. Do you guys think that you're making any moves? Are you comfortable with the roster that you guys have at the moment? What are your pipe dreams? And realistically, what do you think that's going to happen?
So I don't believe Carolina is going to position themselves to be buyers, to be big buyers this year.
Mhm.
Um, and I believe that if we were going to make a trade, I believe it already would have happened when Freddie Anderson went out, and we were going through our goaltending struggles. The fact that they didn't go out and get somebody, and kind of took a risk and kind of rolled the dice on who we had in house just shows me that they're kind of. I don't know if the organization believes, the front office believes that we're contenders this year. I would tend to agree with that. I think this it's a playoff team. I think, um, and maybe they win around, maybe they get past a New Jersey in the first round, or who knows, whoever's there, that we would face in the first round, maybe they get through it. But I don't believe that this team, as currently constructed, contends for Stanley Cup or even the conference final.
Okay.
So, and I think the organization believes that, and the front office does. So, you know, we have contracts coming off the books this offseason. Dmitry Orlov and his $7.75 million contract falls off. Brent Burns is in his final year. His contract falls off. Then, Freddie Anderson's contract is expiring. And, that right there. So, and then the built-in increase of the cap. Carolina is going to have over $30 million of free cap space this offseason.
You guys are going to have fun.
Yes. So, and then on top of that, we've got the best defenseman playing outside of North America in Alexander Nikishin. He will be here as soon as the KHL season ends this season. Really looking forward to that guy. We've been waiting on him for years.
Mm-hmm.
And so he's a 24-year-old guy from the KHL. He's the captain of SKA St. Petersburg. So potential Norris potential for him when he gets over here. And so, that's kind of the replacement for Orlov. And so we've got an opportunity to add to the core. And I think the organization is looking toward the off season. So I don't expect them to take a big dive, spend a bunch of assets to bring in, some players to try to fill the holes we have. Because I think right now there's too many holes to kind of fill them at the trade deadline.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's going to have to be an off season, you know, no, I don't want to call it a retool, but just off-season transactions to kind of, to carry us on. And I think Carolina's right back into a cup window next year. So I don't expect any moves. And if they do make a move, if they make me eat my words, it will be for somebody with term that they plan on being part of the future. But there's not going to be any rentals or anything kind of like we did with Gensel last year. So,
gotcha. Do you think come off season it's going to mainly be established guys already, or there's some other guys down in the pipeline, like the kid that's in the KHL that you mentioned, maybe that's playing in Rosemont or in one of the affiliates that you think is going to get brought up, or do you think it's primarily going to be established vets?
No, I think it's going to be a mix of both. I think there's some players that play down, with the Wolves in Chicago. There's a kid, Bradley Nadeau, who was on the World Junior team with Team Canada.
Mm-hmm.
Controversially, some people, but
I like him. That whole thing was controversial.
Yeah, absolutely. He's got a chance to crack the NHL roster. He will at some point, whether it's next year or maybe a year or two after that, is yet to be seen. But he'll be part of the future. We've got a kid playing now, Jackson Blake. He's a rookie. Mm-hmm. Jackson Blake came from North Dakota in the NCAA last year. Hobie Baker finalist. Obviously got beat by Celebrini, but what
are you gonna do?
Yeah, what are you gonna do there? So he's here, and then there's a couple guys down there. Scott Morrow, a defenseman who's he's had 2 hat tricks in the AHL this season, which blows my mind. He's part of the future. So there's definitely, there's guys down there at the Wolves in the AHL that will be up here at some point, and some of them may be here next season. I think if you're, betting on one player to be in Raleigh next year that's currently in the AHL would be Scott Morrow. Mm-hmm. He played NCAA at UMass, and so he's not, a 19-year-old kid. He's, 22, 23 years old. So I think he's probably primed to be the guy. And then, like I said, there's money to spend. We've got to get a goaltender. We got to get a number 1 or at least a 1B, I guess, with Kochetkov being here. And, we need a second line center. That's been an issue in Carolina for years, since Vincent Trocheck left. And then, you've got, if you got the money, then go get a scoring winger. I mean, we need some offense too. So I think, I think that's the outlook there.
Makes sense. Going into kind of the rest of the season and in the postseason, what do you think is the biggest piece that the Hurricanes are missing? Be it like a type of player or like a mentality aspect, something that's missing in the locker room. What do you think is the biggest thing that they're missing right now to be even more successful?
I think right now the biggest issue, and I mean, recency bias makes me want to say a goaltender, because goaltending has been below average.
As a team with really bad goaltending, I understand. It'd be really nice to have some stability in front of the net.
Yeah. Asking me today, that's it. A goaltender that's not going to allow at least 1 or 2 soft goals, every single game. Ask me in a month when Freddie's back, it might be something else.
Right.
But at this point in time, it's definitely goaltending, because, as the team works through the issues that they have, and, a lot of times a solid goaltender can mask a lot of other holes in the lineup, right?
We saw that with the Rangers for a long time.
There you go. So I think that would be my answer there.
With Kochetkov, do you think it's more of just he's young and that's why the performance is a little shaky, or this could be a long term, just how he is?
I think it's he's young,
Okay.
right? He's definitely got the potential. The ability's there. You can see flashes of it. Um, Again, we were just talking about this on our show. If you look at his numbers, he's in the top 4 of goaltenders in high danger save percentage. Top 4. But then if you look at low danger or non-high danger save percentage, he's in like the bottom.
Right.
So the only thing that we can figure out with him is he's kind of like too eager. Like these high danger chances when the puck's right there up against the net and he can kind of flop and flail and use a stick, poke check, this and that, whatever, he's on top of it. But you sit him, but when he's got to be up on top of his crease in a correct position and stop a shot coming from the point that may be screened a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
that's what he struggles with. And it's crazy. And a lot of that is because he's got to learn to just be steady and calm all the time and not so spastic, I guess, all the time, right? Um, he drops his stick all the time. He, he's poke checking all the time, which is fine. Like it works. But you don't have to do it every time. Like we were in a shootout against Columbus last week and he tried to poke check the last two shooters. If he just sits back in his net, he likely makes the last save and we win the game.
Right.
But we don't because he missed a poke check. The puck goes in the net. But anyway, he's just got to learn to be aggressive when it's time to be aggressive and, just be fundamentally sound, be square to the puck, hug the post when the puck's on the perimeter or whatever it is. Just
Calm down.
calm down. Absolutely. But I think he'll get there. I just think it's not time to play 55 games a year yet.
Mm-hmm.
A couple more years away from that.
Excellent. Final question. I know we kind of talked about your guys' expectation going into the postseason, but just finishing out the regular season, what do you kind of predict, sort of expect from your team?
I think that, like I said, we've been kind of stuck in the 500 murky, whatever it is here for the last couple months, but I think they're going to get on a run again here soon. I think once Freddie's back, goaltending is solidified, the team could kind of just play a little more loose. They'll get back on top of it, but I don't expect this. I don't expect them to go and win the division. I think that's going to be the Capitals. And it's likely our first round matchup is going to be the Devils. I think Carolina will either be the second in the Metro or the third in the Metro, and the Devils will be opposite. So, I think that's what we're looking at. So success to me this year for the Canes is, obviously being a playoff team. And if they were to win a round, I think that is, kind of over what's the word I'm looking for?
Exceeding your expectations.
There you go. Exceeding the expectations this season. Again, I don't think we're cup contenders, but just finish the year solid. Let's be a little better than 500. Let's string some wins together because right now we haven't won 3 games straight since early November. It's really been win loss, win loss, win loss. I mean, it's literally been like that for a while now, and it's getting frustrating. They'll look like cup contenders on Monday night, and they'll look like a lottery team on Wednesday night. It's wild.
Great. Thank you so much for coming on. Do you want to plug your show a little bit?
Yeah. So, I'm 1/3 of it's Caniac Sessions. We live stream all of our sessions on YouTube. You can follow us, X, Instagram, Like we've got a TikTok, Threads, all that good stuff at Caniac Sessions. Check us out on YouTube. We like to post little shorts, and sometimes my co-host AB, he gets on there and he'll make little edits sometimes and post them, and those are pretty good. So you can check us out there. My co-host AB, and then my third co-host is Brandon. He also does his own thing on the side. It's called The Warning Take. He does a lot of like analytical videos and things like that. So if you're interested in, player analysis and breakdowns and such, you can check that out. It's The Warning Take on YouTube. So yeah, that's us.
All right, so we've got 2 other games this week after Carolina. We're playing the Tampa Bay Lightning and then the Minnesota Wild. So getting into Tampa Bay Lightning, currently they are 3rd in the Atlantic Division right now. They're right behind Toronto and Florida. They are 3, 4, and 2 in their first couple of games going into the year 2025. They've been good. They've been consistent. I mean, Tampa is one of those teams that unless they completely wet the bed, they're very much a surefire guarantee into the postseason if their roster just plays how they're consistently playing. They're going to do well. It also helps that they have one of the best goaltenders in the NHL, but we'll get to that in a minute. Tampa does not have a back-to-back. They have 2 away games Monday and Tuesday. Then they have a little bit of a break. And then they play Chicago on Friday and then have another back-to-back against Detroit that Saturday. So they don't have a back-to-back. We also play them. So we play them this upcoming Friday, and then we play them this following Tuesday. The Friday game we play at home, and then we'll play away down in Tampa at the Amalie Arena, I think it is, on Tuesday the week following. So we do play them all back-to-back. Injured reserve, very light for the Tampa Bay Lightning. They only have Moser out. He is scheduled week to week with a lower body injury. He's a defenseman. Getting into some players for the Tampa Bay Lightning to look out for. You've got Nikita Kucherov, Braden Point, Jake Gensel, Brandon Hagel, my favorite, and Anthony Cirelli. Defensemen, you've got Victor Hedman, Brian McDonough, and Eric Chernak. Goaltending tandem, as I said before, they do have one of the best goaltenders, and it has definitely helped them, and in the past maybe masked some holes that they have in the roster, but they really don't have a ton of holes right now. And that is Andrei Vasilevsky and Jonas Johansson. He is a recent call-up. I believe he played quite a bit at the NHL level last year when Vasilevsky was out dealing with medical issues and he was called up from Syracuse. So now he's backing up Vasilevsky. I imagine that actually I have no idea who's going to be in net for Friday. It could be either because they have such a big break and maybe they put Johansson with us just because Detroit's not in the best position right now, but they've been on a little bit of a hot streak. So you maybe want to put Vasilevsky in net against Detroit. So I'm assuming we're getting Jonas Johansson for goaltending for the Tampa game on Friday. Really don't have a ton of guys in the pipeline. Ethan Gauthier is probably the one notable prospect that I have watched a little bit from the Tampa Bay Lightning. But this is pretty much common with consistent playoff contenders or, teams that are, serious playoff contenders. They really don't have a ton in the pipeline. The pipeline is very much for rebuilds or up and coming teams that are going to the playoffs year in and year out really don't have anything as far as development. Typically, there are some exceptions, Washington Capitals being one of them. So they really don't have a ton right now. Their motive in terms of acquiring guys has kind of just been guys that can play right now. I don't think that they're expecting to make a significantly deep playoff run, but they're definitely expecting to be in the postseason. And they have been for the past couple of years, kind of just acquiring guys that could play right now and trading away their future draft picks. And that's, like I said, that's just very common with teams that are in the postseason year in and year out. So should be a good game. Final game that we have of this upcoming week is against the Minnesota Wild. They are 3-1 coming into the 2025 year. They're second in the Central Division behind Connor Hellebuck of the Winnipeg Jets. They do have a back-to-back, so they're in Calgary, or they play Calgary at home on Saturday, and then they're in Chicago on Sunday. Their injured reserve is a little lengthy. You've got Brodin with a lower body, Kaprizov with a lower body, and that's huge. If he doesn't, I know he's not going on their upcoming road trip, but I don't know about past that point. Jared Spurgeon with a lower body, Marcus Johansson with a concussion, Jesper Wallstedt with, we don't know, which is probably why the Rockford Ice Hogs had such a great game last night. Grosnick with a knee, like we said the last time we played Minnesota, and then you've got Ferguson that's also undisclosed. In terms of goaltending tandem, you've got Philip Gustafsson and Marc-Andre Fleury. I imagine Marc-Andre Fleury is in net for this game because while his tenure with Chicago was short, very short, he still played here, and based on what I'm seeing, Minnesota's typically putting him in net for like his final time at certain stadiums where he's played, or just final time in that stadium. And this, I believe, is the last time that we do play the Minnesota Wild this year. It's certainly the last one at home. I don't believe we have another away game. But I would imagine, yes, they have a back-to-back, but I imagine Flower gets the net for the Chicago game. Couple of guys to be on the lookout for, like we explained the last time that Chicago played Minnesota. You've got Eriksson Ek, you've got the other Foligno brother and Marcus Foligno, you've got Marco Rossi, defenseman Brock Faber, and then Sam Savoie's favorite guy to slam into the ice, David Jiricek. So that is all for this Monday preview. We've got the Carolina Hurricanes, Tampa Bay Lightning, and the Minnesota Wild. Just as a reminder, make sure to hit that like and subscribe on either Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or YouTube, however you watch or listen to us ramble on a weekly basis. If you're going to a game this week, please wait for the whistle. Do not get up while the puck's in play. And if you hear a girl yelling at you, it's probably me. That is all, and we will talk to you guys next